reached the porch, dog greeted us. We sat down and petted her. She played the piano with us said softly. She who? Who do you think they're talking about? Who's the she they're talking about here?
No.
Yeah, Belle Prater, exactly. Mama? Granny taught her too. She played so pretty it made me want to cry. Y'all didn't have a piano in that little old shack, did you? I said, then bit my tongue. No, with her said, saying not to notice my blunder. Mama always wanted one. She played over at the church in Poplar Creek Sunday. Can Aunt Love play? No, I said. She never could get the hang of it. Granny told me that Mama tried her best to learn, but she was so bad when she started practicing, the dogs would leave home. This is an example of hyperbole, right? We giggled. I did my duty that afternoon. About 7 p.m., we all settled down to supper in Granny's dining room. There sat Mama looking like royalty, that's a simile, with Porter beside her, his arm draped across the back of her chair. Porter's brother, Hubert Dodson, a town doctor, we called him Doc Dot, was there with his wife, Irene, and two little twin girls, Dottie and Dee Dee Dodson. What do we notice about that name, Dee Dee Dodson? What's that an example of?
Repetition.
No.
Alliteration?
Yeah, it's alliteration, right? That D sounds repeating. Woodrow started giggling when he heard the names, so I whispered to him, "That's not the worst of it. Porter and Doc Dottie's daddy was named Bobby Robert Dodson." I thought Woodrow was going to have to leave the table when I said that. What are you two youngins giggling about, Grandpa said. He was standing at the head of the table, fixing to carve the pork roast. When I looked up at him with his thinning hair and wire-rimmed specs, it struck me how much he favored Harry Truman. Harry Truman was a president of the United States. So actually, let me show you a picture of him. So he says they say he looks like him. I'll show you what Harry Truman looked like. This was Harry Truman. That's what he looked like. So that's what they're saying he looks like. Nothing I managed to say. Nothing, Porter said. Well, nothing seems to be mighty funny. And again, they're laughing at the fact that the names are like alliteration. They sound funny. Everybody looked at us, but nobody was mad. They were smiling and in a good mood and glad to see Woodrow was having fun. Well now, Mother, is that bottle of your homemade blackberry wine I see on the sideboard? Porter shouted to Granny. Oh, Lordy, yes, I nearly forgot, Granny said, and she fetched to the table. Here, Doc Dot, will you do the honors? She set the wine in front of him. Certainly, Doc Dot said, as he stood up to open and serve the wine. All a body needs is a taste of spirits to soothe the nerves. Sometimes a little sip from a bottle like this one in front of me can mean the difference between sanity and insanity. And frankly, Doc Dot had a twinkle in his eye as he raised his voice for the benefit of Granny and Grandpa. Frankly, I'd rather have a bottle in front of me than a frontal lobotomy. That's actually a joke, right? So he's using a play on words to say a joke. Do you guys know what a lobotomy is? I doubt anybody in here knows what that means. Do you know what a lobotomy is, anyone?
No.
So a lobotomy is they used to treat like people who they thought were crazy or had some sort of illness by cutting out part of their brain, which is kind of nuts. So a lobotomy is when they cut part of your brain off, which is kind of crazy. So they used to do that back in the day to people. I don't know if they still use it for any type of thing.
How do they cut it?
I don't know.
Why do they?
I'm assuming they used to just freaking
They
drill
put
into.
your head open then?
Yeah, they literally would. Well, I guess there were no drills back then, so they probably literally used a saw. They saw your head open. Yeah.
They can just grab it through your nose.
Yeah, I guess I don't know how the heck somebody found out how to do it. So there's all kinds of ways, I'm assuming, but it's basically where they do something to your brain. I know, I think sometimes too they used to which is kind of crazy. They would either hammer through your eye or through your nose too to damage it. Because basically what would happen is you'd have people who were acting like they probably had mental illness, right? So they had some sort of mental illness. So somebody I guess somehow figured out that if you destroy part of the brain, that it basically turns you into a vegetable, right? So you turn into somebody who can barely function, right? So instead of having people who were acting like crazy people because they were mentally ill, they would like damage part of the brain, and that was called a lobotomy. So that's what it's called, right? So again, he's using a play on words like, frankly, I'd rather have a bottle in front of me than a frontal lobotomy. He's like rhyming or whatever. Okay, so it's kind of a joke. We all just about died laughing. Doc was so tickled with his success, he decided to try again. Speaking of tension, he said, Mo's Childress came to see me the other day and he said, Doc, one night I dreamed I was a teepee, and the next night I dreamed I was a wigwam. What do you think my problem is? And I said, well, Mose, that's simple enough. Your problem is you're too tense. Okay, so he's using a play on words here. You guys know what a teepee and a wigwam is? You should probably know what a teepee is, right? Anybody know what a teepee and a wigwam is or no? Who's that? Nobody knows that.
I know what a teepee is. What's a teepee? But I don't know the other. Yeah, I don't know what the other thing is. I only know what a teepee is.
What's a teepee?
The things to keep bugs away from you that you light on fire.
No, that's not a teepee.
No, the house thing. My bad. It's the house.
Yeah, teepee is the type of thing that...
I got confused with the other thing.
Yeah, teepee is what Native Americans used to sleep in. Wigwam is the same thing. So he's using a play on words here, saying that he dreamed that he was one of both of those things. And the guy is using the word tense, which is basically what they are. But he was trying to say the word T-E-N-S-E, which is tense, which means you're stressed out. So he used the fact that those two words sound the same to kind of make a point, like, oh, you're too like stressed out. But he's basically saying tense, which is basically a teepee and a wigwam. So it's a joke, right? He's telling a joke. That one got a good laugh too, and so it went all evening. So again, this guy's just telling jokes. The wine seems to loosen everybody up. Brady's cooking looked blue ribbon, and even Porter didn't get on my nerves as much as usual. I caught myself almost smiling at him once. Can we do this on my birthday? Woodrow suddenly blurted out when there was a quiet moment. Then, seeming to regret his boldness, he ducked his head into his plate and blushed scarlet. There came a chorus of replies. Certainly, of course, naturally. When's your birthday, Woodrow? I said. January 1st, said, smiling with pleasure of all of his attention, or December 31st. Mama never knew for sure. I was born right on the stroke of midnight, New Year's Eve, 1942. Right on the stroke, Mama said. Belle never told us that. Well, she told me lots of times. She told me that story so many times I knew it by heart. A midwife was with her and she was having a real hard time. So somebody know what a midwife is? You might learn that about in history, maybe. Midwife, anybody know that or no? Does anybody know what a midwife is?
I don't know what that is.
What is it?
I don't know what that is.
I thought you said you didn't know. Yeah, so basically, back in the day, people never went to hospitals to have babies. They would have this. There were women who were trained to basically give birth to people. So the name of that person was called a midwife. So they would come over your house when you're about to have a child, and they would take care of it. Crazy story back in the day is that people would rather have a midwife than a doctor take care of their babies, because babies used to die all the time, and they had women used to die all the time, and they had no idea why. It was actually crazy how the wives and the babies were dying. Basically, what was happening was when people were having babies, the doctors wouldn't wash their hands. So basically what would happen was the doctors would be sitting there messing around with dead bodies, and then they would touch the people who were giving birth. So they didn't understand, obviously, that when you're touching dead things, that it has all kinds of bacteria and diseases. So they would basically take those diseases from dead bodies and pass them on to people who were having babies and giving birth. They didn't realize that, hey, obviously, you got to wash your hands. So they started actually using lime. I don't know how lime does it, but like if you use lime, it kills the diseases. So it wasn't until then that they realized that like you have to wash your hands. So that's kind of crazy.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
They would wash their hands.
You touch a dead body and not wash your hands if you're gonna help a woman giving birth.
People had the doctors had no idea how diseases were spread. They didn't even know about diseases. They used to think like all kinds of different crazy reasons about why people were dead. They didn't understand that actually bacteria.
No, but like, who would even touch a dead body? Like,
Well, they were trying to figure they were trying to figure out how the human body works. So, in hospitals.
But they can wear gloves.
No, they probably weren't even wearing gloves really either. It didn't even really matter. So if they're wearing gloves when they're touching dead bodies and they just keep those gloves on and then they touch you, you're still going to get the diseases and stuff. So yeah, it was kind of crazy. So
you touching me with those gloves? I don't know where you got those.
Exactly.
New fresh gloves.
Yeah. So again, because of that, that's basically where hygiene started, right? So it wasn't until they started figuring out that's why people are dying. Again, the biggest issue was, you would have midwives, and then when the midwife would come to your house and you had a baby, nobody was dying. And then you would take people to the hospital, and then when they had babies in the hospital, everybody started dying. They're like, why is this happening? And then they figured it out. The midwife obviously wasn't touching dead bodies and stuff. All right, so let me continue. All right, so the midwife was with her, and she was having a real hard time. Just Woodrow talking about him being born. She was trying to birth me, but I wouldn't come. Finally, Mama passed out from all the pain, and she went out of her body. Then she felt peaceful and free. She said she drifted around the room and could see the midwife in her own body on the bed. Then she realized she wasn't alone. Another person was there floating around with her. It seemed like it was somebody who just arrived from far away, and it was somebody she felt like she used to know 1,000 years ago in another place. And Mama said to this person, "Oh, it's you. I've waited for you. And I've missed you so much. What took you so long?" And the person said, "I couldn't get away. They just now let me go, but here I am, so let's get started." Then Mama came to herself, and she heard the clock strike midnight, and I was born all at the same time. So again, Woodrow's telling this story. It's kind of hard to tell, is he being honest? Is this a real story? Is he making it up? It's very obviously fantastical, right? So he has this idea that he's sitting there and his mom's giving birth, she leaves her body, and like she sees another body there outside of her body, and it's Woodrow, and they're talking or whatever. So it's, is this true or is it not true? It's kind of hard to tell what's going on. What do you think? Who do you think it was she met? My Mama said breathlessly. I looked at her and the others. All their eyes were on Woodrow. The wine and cake were forgotten in this fascination of the story. Why it was me, Woodrow cried joyfully. Me. There was complete silence as we digested what he had said. A shiver ran up my spine as I thought what a strange story that was. Suddenly there was a ring, and all we jumped up like we were shot. Then we laughed nervously as Mama ran to answer the phone. So he told the story, and it kind of like scared them a little bit because it's like a little ghosty almost. And then the phone rings, which like scares them. It was for Doc Dot. Somebody was having a fit up in Grassy Lake, and he had to go see about him. The party scattered when he left. The twins curled up on the couch and went to sleep while the women cleared up the dishes. And Grandpa and Porter commenced discussing President Eisenhower. Woodrow and I went out to feed dog. Then we sat in the swing on Granny's tremendous porch. It was a still, clear night. The moon was full, and there were millions of stars. The mountains loomed over us like friendly giants, and we could hear the frogs having a spring fling down in Slide Creek. This is personification here. This is the day I will choose, Woodrow said softly. Choose for what? I said and yawned. I was about ready to turn in, ready to go to sleep. Mama told me when we die, we're allowed to live one day over again, just one, exactly as it was. This is the day that I will choose. I was surprised. A day that for me had been only slightly special was the most wonderful day of his life. It made me wonder how bad things had been in Crooked Ridge. Right, so again, she's reflecting on how his life must have not been so good, right? So his best day of his life is celebrating somebody else's birthday, right? And again, he's thinking about this because his mother told him that he can live this day over and over again when he dies. So again, you're kind of seeing that Belle almost had like this fantastical, whimsical ideas about the world, right? So she told him this story about his birth, which is odd, right? Seems like a kind of a strange story. Is it truth? Is it real? Who knows? And then she also told him the poem story, and then you're also hearing this, right? So it's kind of crazy. Then we talked real serious about the pagan babies over there across the ocean dying with filth diseases. And what about those poor folks in New York City who were living practically stacked on top of one another? And in Russia, they had gobs of people all living together in one little bitty house. If you complain, they hold you off to Siberia to live in an igloo and see how you like that. Both of us felt really lucky to live right here on Resident Street. I wonder how my mama could ever have left here to marry my daddy and go live up there with him, Woodrow said. It seems like this beautiful place has everything that you could ever want, and nothing could ever hurt you here. Alright, so now you're going to answer a couple questions. Let me just